Great turbulences. Introduction. The genesis of universe is attributed to a great turbulence, better known as the Big Bang, which resulted in the formation of galaxies including our own Milky Way. Within the galaxy, stars like the Sun started to rotate violently and smaller objects such as the planets started to break off when their equilibrium was disturbed. Planet Earth is also a result of this turbulence. Over billions of years, the Earth's turbulent and hostile environment comprising of raining meteors, incessant lighting, and acid rain stabilized to form a friendly atmosphere. Hence, turbulence and equilibrium are overarching themes in nature. Balanced turbulences in nature nurture life. Summer heating of the earth and oceans lead to rain and cooling. The rapidly evaporating lakes and oceans are again replenished with water. However, when this balance or equilibrium is disturbed, negative turbulences, such as the Asian tsunami, earthquakes, and hurricanes result, leading to large-scale destruction. Human actions are responsible for disturbing the nature's balance or equilibrium and converting the positive energies present in nature into negative energies. For example, the water cycle as well as the carbon cycle is being affected through deforestation. It is critical that nature's balance is maintained for life to continue on Earth. Just as they exist in nature, turbulences or turmoils, creative or destructive, exist within the human mind and affect individual thoughts and actions. When the human equilibrium is disturbed, it results in great turbulences such as terrorism, HIV, crimes, and relationship conflicts. Great turbulences occur when individual turbulence leads to cumulative human actions. The great turbulences see no border, color, nationality, or creed and affect all individuals in every aspect of life. Neutral or positive turbulences lead to positive developments such as the World Wide Web, while undesirable or negative turbulences lead to disasters such as 9/11 and global warming. These global turbulences emphasize the power of an individual's action and their cumulative effect on society. These turbulences have taken center stage in nations across the world and preoccupy most rehabilitative or reconstructive efforts by international agencies. Left unattended, they have the ability to escalate into global disasters. Impact of the great turbulences. Every turbulence, whether natural or triggered by human action, affects individuals in three dimensions: psychological, affecting the individual's thought process; physical, destroying or weakening the individual physically; and social, affecting the individual's interactions with family, friends, and society. The physical effects of the great turbulences are visible and apparent. The media magnification of the physical impact of a disaster results in extensive awareness and elicits large-scale social response. However, the potent psychological and social currents and countercurrents remain invisible and unaddressed and can become the cause for a greater turbulence. Interrelationship of turbulences. The great turbulences are not like individual tornadoes or hurricanes, but are an interrelated group that fuel and draw energy from one another. Not only do these turbulences affect an individual's thoughts, actions, and interactions with society, but also play upon one another to create live and powerful networks of complex issues that get increasingly difficult to resolve. Hence, 9/11 is no longer an incident of terrorism. It is a complex and symbol of world politics, racial discrimination, media management, and human rights. Likewise, global warming is no longer about the greenhouse effect, but is influenced by other turbulences like deforestation, which reduces the ability of the plant kingdom to fix carbon dioxide, the political turmoil between developed countries, which are seen as the major precipitators of global warming, and developing countries such as India and China, which, if left unchecked, will soon overtake the developed countries in terms of contributions to greenhouse emissions. Though it can be used as an effective tool for research and finding solutions for major international issues like global warming and deforestation, the World Wide Web has given ready access to basal pleasures and pastimes that result in negative output. The Asian tsunami has triggered massive legislative changes in various countries and has resulted in large-scale disaster management initiatives. However, politics between opposing national parties as well as regional politics between sub-factions create unintended hurdles in the implementation of these policies. Additionally, policy-making excludes illiteracy, poverty, terrorism, and others as potential disasters, necessitating repetitive efforts, at all levels, of society to manage them when they grow to disastrous proportions.
Similarly, narcotics is no longer about bad guys selling drugs to children and teens anymore. Social infrastructure such as the police, other security agencies, political power, and others play a major role in keeping the demon alive. Even positive turbulences that resulted in positive impact on human life created a negative turbulence in society due to ineffective planning for its implementation. Hence, simple diagnostic scans have grown much beyond the inventor's altruistic intentions to identify problems for early addressal. Decline of the female population in many countries can be directly attributed to prenatal scans for sex determination, highlighting the power of this turbulence. Skewed gender ratios affect social stability, increase sex crimes in general, and promote girl-child abuse and trafficking of women and girls. Personal ethics, hospital politics, regional healthcare systems, such as insurance and reimbursements, combine to create a negative turbulence in society. Recent changes in the education system are changing social structures dramatically, wherein children with advanced technical education and little experience earn much more than what their parents earn after a quarter-century of experience, disturbing the hierarchy, value system, and the decision-making process within the family and negatively affecting respect for parents and elders. The great turbulences, positive and negative, are the cause of majority of problems people face today. If left unchecked, they have the potential to become global disasters. To check their progression, it is important to understand the dynamics of the turbulence as well as the dynamics of the individual and the social response to the turbulence. It is also essential to understand the root cause of these turbulences and how best to address them.
Human framework and interoperability system, psychological, physical, and social dimensions constitute the fundamental framework of humans. While the individual is one inseparable entity, it is convenient to address each dimension within an individual in isolation in order to develop a comprehensive one-time solution for the turbulences through an integrated framework. MGRM has developed such a framework that starts with the basic, the individual. The MGRM framework derives a comprehensive system for addressing the turbulences through the three dimensions of an individual. The basic tendency of a rational human being is to prevent problems. Issues that cannot be prevented need to be addressed at the pre-problem, problem, and post-problem stages. Hence, the interoperability framework is the framework by which the human dimensions interoperate based on natural principles comprises of 4 layers: prevention, pre-problem addressal, problem addressal, and post-problem addressal. The solution to various turbulences can be achieved by addressing these layers. The minimum criteria for the validity of this framework is that it needs to clarify the various issues faced and provide a clear path for resolving them. It should also take the remedial measures that have worked or have not worked into account. All great turbulences originate from the mind. Hence, the solution to the problem also resides in the mind, or the psychological dimension, and it is the interoperability layers at the psychological dimension that should be the first to be addressed. HIV and AIDS is an acquired syndrome, which means that an individual has to first go and get it in order to be affected by it. Hence, the problem is not HIV, the virus, but the individual who seeks it. Similarly, 9/11 is the result of an unsatisfied mind, and global warming and deforestation are the results of psychological problems. Fighting global warming by removing carbon dioxide is as futile an exercise as is fighting obesity with surgery. While emergencies may mandate such drastic remedial action, but it is clear that prevention is better than cure, and even if the problem reaches beyond prevention, it has to be addressed at its root, and the root of all human actions resides in his psyche. Without addressing the individual, the great turbulences affecting the society cannot be resolved or even reduced.
Psychological dimension. Let us understand the dynamics of the human mind in the context of HIV and AIDS and try to develop a strategy to solve this problem. Various print and audiovisual methods are employed to convey the cause and effects of HIV and AIDS to the common man and the importance of taking precautions to avoid acquiring this syndrome. By now, even school children know what HIV is and how to prevent it. But the rapid growth and global incidence of newly acquired infection highlights the fact that awareness is not sufficient to prevent HIV. Individual faces various psychological barriers when she or he tries to implement the available preventive measures. Embarrassment and other intangible psychological factors inhibit an individual from going to the chemist shop to buy condoms. Billions of dollars spent in awareness generation come to naught because these psychological barriers and factors of an individual are not addressed. Similar issues that hover around the psychological realm remain when condoms are distributed freely. Making condoms easily accessible and available is not the solution to HIV/AIDS. There are no condoms that can let a HIV-positive woman have a HIV-negative child, or that can prevent a HIV-positive partner from purposefully infecting his or her partner in order to avoid embarrassment, confrontation, and slur to character. The one question, what if my partner is HIV positive, can be a major turbulence within an individual and affect all aspects of interaction with the partner. Similarly, an individual who is powerful in society can intentionally continue to sleep around without caring for the well-being of others. The motivation to control the spread of disease has to come from within the individual, whether affected or not. Every individual knows that water is scarce and should not be wasted, but will not make any effort to conserve it unless she or he realizes the importance of conservation at the deepest psychological layer. Till such time that the psychological realm of every individual is addressed at its root, the individual drops will accumulate to become a great turbulence and negatively affect the social structure. If the turbulence is not addressed in all its layers, it can cause a major turmoil in an individual's mind. Hence, it is absolutely essential to go through the psychological, interoperability layers of prevention, pre-problem addressal, problem addressal and post-problem addressal stages in order to resolve the complete spectrum of psychological issues and solve the problem.
In the case of HIV/AIDS, once the individual's psychological inhibitions are effectively addressed, she or he will go for prevention. She or he will start avoiding unwanted contacts, will start using condoms, and may choose to lead a one-partner life. But by doing so has the individual ensured that she or he will never acquire the syndrome? No, and hence the need to address the next layer, the pre-problem stage. She or he needs to ensure that his or her partner is not affected, will also adhere to the necessary precautions, and will also lead a one-partner life. Once the partners come to this understanding, for a better future together, the pre-problem stage is successfully addressed. The partners will then get themselves checked and ensure that the problem stage is addressed and avoided. The two individuals are now ready to address the next stage of post-problem addressal by taking it into the physical and social dimension. It is possible that the psychological layer is, figuratively speaking, damaged or corrupted in some individuals. For example, if an individual is adamant on leaving the water running because she or he can afford to pay the bill, or clearing trees because it is to his or her benefit, there's nothing much anyone can do. In such a scenario, the turbulences can never be fully addressed and removed. Hence, it is not correct to ignore such individuals. Instead, it is essential that these negativities are identified and such individuals are brought into the fold of the problem and are penetrated with positivity at the psychological dimension. If each individual is not positively penetrated at the psychological dimension, there is no way that the individual is going to address his or her own interoperability layers of going from prevention to post-problem addressal.
Physical dimension. As soon as an individual is convinced about the causes and negative effects of a turbulence at the psychological dimension, she or he will be ready to address the physical dimension and physically protect him or herself from the turbulence. She or he will not do anything to trigger the problem in his or her body and take all necessary steps to safeguard his or her physical well-being. She or he will ensure all measures for safe sex, eat healthy food, exercise, build an earthquake-resistant house, conserve water, plant more trees. Anything possible to ensure that his or her physical existence in the world is happy and healthy. If not psychologically convinced about his or her actions, the individual will not only physically harm him/herself but also others. Suicide bombers, or people who are known to infect others in cinema halls with HIV virus-infected needles, are examples of individuals with extreme negativity because their psychological dimension remained unaddressed. Social dimension. When every layer of the psychological and physical dimension is addressed at the individual level, moving to the social dimension, that is, taking the problem to family, friends, and other relations, becomes relatively easier. When the individual is convinced about addressing and resolving a particular problem at all layers, she or he would effortlessly take all relevant measures to take the message to and protect his loved ones, which include his or her children, relatives, friends, colleagues, and others in his or her contact. The only problem in this transition is that even though the individual may be convinced, there could be an inherent inertia or laxity to take it to society. Hence, when tackling the individual at his or her psychological dimension, she or he needs to be convinced that it is important and is his or her responsibility to socially address the issue by taking it to the society. Why should I bother as long as I am safe? Or, why should I do it? Let others do it, are common thoughts that prevent an individual from sharing their understanding. This laxity will restrict the rapid propagation of derived benefits to others and hence, needs to be addressed. When this obstacle is removed at the individual's psychological dimension and a sense of responsibility towards the society is inculcated in the individual, she or he will take his or her social circle through the prevention, pre-problem addressal, problem addressal, and post-problem addressal stages. Approaching the social dimension through mass media, workshops, and awareness camps, without understanding or addressing the individual psychological and physical dimension is a futile exercise. While such exercise will get media attention and coverage, it is not effective enough to eradicate the problem. Transition from the psychological and physical dimension to the social dimension is the ultimate aim of any endeavor that attempts to restrict the great turbulences affecting the society. This shift from the psychological and physical dimension, where an individual commits her/himself to the social dimension and comes together with like-minded individuals to establish a platform to address these problems, is important. Addressing the social dimension may be through a forum, an activity center, NGO, or a consortium or any other platform that acts on a larger group of people in a larger geographic area. Individuals who have reached the social dimension of their existence are able to address the psychological and physical problems in other individuals and work towards eradicating the great turbulences inflicting the society. Individuals talking about their experiences in fighting cancer or HIV/AIDS or working towards a greener world are examples of the individuals who have overcome their problems at the psychological and physical dimensions and are ready to contribute at the social dimension.
Complete personality. When working towards the eradication of any great turbulence, the psychological layer is the most difficult to address and requires great planning. The process can be extremely slow and time-consuming but is absolutely essential. Self-control and a positive understanding of life can control these turbulences. Hence, character and personality are of prime importance, which need to be built from the childhood by positive thinking and aware parents. When successfully addressed at the individual level and all its dimensions, great turbulences such as HIV, terrorism, global warming, and others can be pragmatically addressed at the social level with equally great force, thereby restricting or slowing them. Hence, complete addressal of the great turbulences inflicting our society is possible only by making an individual a complete personality, an individual who has successfully overcome a problem at the psychological, physical, and social dimensions by going through its interoperability layers. Any individual can approach this state of complete personality by working on or seeking help to work on all the dimensions of his or her personality. If an individual successfully works on his or her psychological, physical, and social dimensions and becomes a complete personality, sure he can contribute towards ensuring that a beautiful world is there to welcome the generations to come. The real question is how much effort is an individual ready to put in to reach the ideal state of being a complete personality and contributing positively towards tackling the great turbulences. Have you started your journey?